Okay, welcome Richardson Plano Networkers. Today, I'm going to speak a little fast. Today we will connect to Thrive Mastermind with our guest speaker, Frank King, who will speak to us today about the 6 secrets to landing a TEDx talk. Over the last few weeks, we focused on owning and telling your story, competitive immunity, your magic, and customer retention, among others. Whether you see yourself on a TEDx stage, any other stage, or you just want to show up in any room with more power and impact, you definitely want to participate in this fun and life/business changing mastermind. Frank King, suicide prevention speaker and trainer, was a writer for The Tonight Show for 20 years. That's impressive credentials. And a TEDx coach for 7. He's fought a lifetime battle with major depressive disorder and chronic suicidality. Sorry to hear that. Turning that long, dark journey of the soul into 6 TEDx talks and sharing his life-saving insights on mental health awareness. Sorry, the cat's in the way. Mental health awareness with associations, corporations, and colleges. Depression and suicide run in his family. He's thought about killing himself more times than he can count. A motivational public speaker who uses his life's lessons to start the conversation, giving people permission to give voice to their feelings and experiences surrounding depression and suicide. We know you will be moved by Frank's talk, so please join us in welcoming Frank King.
Yes, and my life-saving insects. I can't wait to tell you about my life-saving
Did I say that?
insects. Yeah.
Insights instead of, oh,
Yeah.
good. I told you I was doing it quickly.
I think there may be a Nobel Prize in that if I can come up with a life-saving insect, or at least an infomercial. Hi guys, yes, I am Frank King. I am the mental health comedian. You may be wondering why, comedian talking about suicide and depression. It runs in my family. It's called generational depression and suicide. My grandmother died by suicide. My mother found her. My great aunt died by suicide. My mother and I found her. I was 4 years old and I screamed for days. I'll spare you the details because it's horror movie horrible. And I myself came close enough to dying by suicide in 2010 at the height of the last recession after filing Chapter 7 bankruptcy and losing everything my wife and I had worked for 25 years. Came close enough I can tell you what the barrel of my gun tastes like. Spoiler alert, I did not pull the trigger. A friend of mine came up recently after a keynote and said, "Hey man, how come you didn't pull the trigger?" I said, "Hey man, could you try to sound slightly less disappointed?" That's the humor. It's not jokes about suicide. It's just funny personal stories about my mental health journey. I started stand-up comedy in 1985, the day after Christmas. I asked my girlfriend, now my wife, 35 years, I said, "Look, I'm going on the road to be a professional stand-up comedian. Do you want to come along for the ride?" Figuring she'd go, "Oh, hell no." And she goes, "Yeah." So we quit our jobs, gave up our apartment, put everything in storage that we could not fit in our tiny Dodge Colt. And she and I were on the road for 2,629 nights in a row, nonstop, no home. And we worked with Seinfeld and Dennis Miller and Ellen DeGeneres and Rosie O'Donnell and Adam Sandler, Kevin James, opened up for the Beach Boys and Mary Wilson and Lou Rawls. It was a great 7 years and change. And then I got a job in radio in Raleigh, North Carolina, on the #1 morning show in Raleigh, North Carolina, which in 18 months I drove to #6. As a friend of mine said, "You didn't just drive that show into the ground, you drove it into Middle Earth." True. My comedy had always been very clean. When I got fired from radio, the comedy club scene was dying. So I jumped to the corporate comedy world, which, by the way, people ask, what's the difference between a club comic and a corporate comic? About $5,000 a night plus travel. So I'm no math major, and I rode that horse until about 2007 or 8, when the last recession hit. Speaking dropped off 80% overnight. And you guys know what happened when that happened and we lost everything. And when the speaking business began to come back, meeting planner said to me, "Frank, we love you, but we can't pay you that kind of money anymore just to be funny. You have to teach our audience something." And I thought, what in the world have I got to teach anybody? So a friend of mine, Judy Carter wrote the Comedy Bible. She also wrote a book called The Message of You, Turning Your Life into a Money-Making Speaking Career. And by the way, I put Judy's name and the book in the chat, so you don't have to make a note. Put a bunch of stuff in there, but Judy's book is in there. I went into Judy's book thinking I got nothing to talk about. And about halfway through, I thought, oh, my Lord, yes, I do. I decided that I could take my family history of mental illness, more nuts in my family than in a squirrel turd, and my personal history. And if I got some suicide prevention training, some certifications, which I have, I could keynote on suicide prevention. What I did not know at the time is that even though one person dies by suicide every 9 minutes in the US, hardly anybody talks about it unless you bring it up. And so that's really what they pay me for as a suicide prevention speaker, is to come in and simply start the conversation, which gives other people permission to give voice to their feelings and experiences surrounding depression and thoughts of suicide. The other hurdle, besides deciding what it was I wanted to talk about that was serious, was I've been a comedian for 25 years. That's how everybody thought of me. So I had to rebrand. My wife said, you should do a TEDx talk. I said, what's a TEDx talk? She explained it to me, and just by chance on Speaker Match that week, it's a sort of an online speaker bureau, speakermatch.com. There was an application for a TEDx in Vancouver, British Columbia. So I filled it out. I got an audition. I actually flew up to the audition and I got the talk. I got spoiled. I got my first TED talk on my first application. And that allowed me to begin to rebrand, because in that talk, in that suicide prevention TEDx talk, I came out for the first time in my life as depressed and suicidal. Nobody knew. My family, my wife, my friends, nobody had any idea that I was living with depression and thoughts of suicide. And so that proved to the meeting planners and the speakers bureaus that I could do something, in fact, very serious, but with humor. It's kind of like being a court jester. It's speaking truth to the power of mental illness on behalf of those often powerless in its grip, with humor. And then after I did that one, 2 other TEDx events called and said, do you have any more mental health topics? We'd like to have you on stage. So my second 2, I got invited. My fourth one, called Mental with Benefits, the Evolutionary Advantages of Mental Illness, I kept bumping into people who were high functioning mentally ill who had some other amazing ability, writers, speakers, actors, comedians. And I thought, this cannot be a coincidence. And so I did some research, and that became Mental with Benefits, because there's so many people who are so talented who also have some sort of mental challenge. Number 5, I had to apply for. It's called Suicide, the Secret of My Success, Dead Man Talking. And the TEDx selection committee liked the title and the idea so much I didn't have to audition. Same thing happened on my 5th TEDx talk. It was called Mental Health and the Orgasm. Treat your depression single-handedly. Again, I got a phone call. No, you don't have to audition. With a title like that, you're on. And then my 6th one I was invited to. They'd seen some of my other TEDx and they invited me. So that's how I got my 6th. And I'm now applying for my 7th TEDx talk. Now, I got my first one on my first application. On this one that I'm applying for, number 7, I've sent out probably 75 applications, and I've had 3 auditions, but obviously have not nailed down a spot in the big red circle of carpet yet. I try to apply to a TEDx every day, and because there's 200 plus in the US and 1,200 around the world. And so I'm hoping sometime I'll be able to do number 7. Let's see. Before we go any farther, my website is in the chat, yourtedxcoach.com. If you go there, you can download a free PDF, and it's actually the 6 things you can do to kill your chances of landing a TEDx talk, not get a TEDx talk. The 6 things you can do to kill your chances of landing a TEDx talk, because most TEDx coaches will tell you what you should do to get a TEDx. Well, there's a half a dozen things you shouldn't do. Things that will get you thrown into what they call the no pile very quickly. And if you don't get past that or over that hurdle, you're not going to get an audition. So it's 6 things, and we'll cover all 6 things that you should not do or should do to kill your chance of landing a TEDx. You'll notice TEDx.com in the chat, TEDx.com/TEDx/events. That's the official TEDx site. So if you go to TEDx.com/TEDx/events, you'll see a map of the world with lots of blue dots on it. Those are all the TEDx talks in all the world, all year long. And you can sort by location, United States, Great Britain, like that. You can sort by the year, and you can sort by the month. And let's say you're in the US and you want to do a TEDx talk this year, then I would put in United States for the location, 2022, and then in the month, I'd put September at the very earliest, because we're already in April, and there's usually a 4 or 5 month runway for each TEDx talk. First they have to have, take in applications. That takes a month or more. Then they decide who's going to audition, and that takes a month or more. Then they assign you a volunteer coach. If you're one of the 12 or 14 who get to be on the stage, that takes a month or more, and then they got to market it. So you're looking at 4 or 5 month runway. So if you applied today and you were fortunate enough to get it, you probably wouldn't be on stage in a TEDx until September or October at this point. There's a book called Talk Like TED. This is all in the chat, by the way, guys. Talk Like TED by Carmine Gallo. Carmine watched hundreds of TED Talks, and he boiled it down to what he believes are the 9 things that go in every great TED Talk: humor, passion, a surprise for the audience, and another 6 things. And when I'm designing my talk and talks for my clients, we try to get all 9 of those things into the talk. And then there's Turn Your Life into a Money-Making Speaking Career by Judy Carter. And my email address, frank@yourtedxcoach.com. So let's talk about and by the way, kids, I've got a Zoom at the bottom of the hour at the 30 mark. So we'll cover. Would you like me to go till about 20 after the hour and do Q&A, or 25 after the hour and do Q&A? You guys tell me what would be best.
I would recommend, Frank, that you take it to, if your content, I know it's going to be great. So just take it to the 20 after, and if you're going to, kind of go through it, and with your time constraint, let's go ahead and take it to 20 after, okay. And then we'll see if we have any questions at that juncture.
Okay. Hang on, let me pull up the PDF on my end of the 6 things, so I get them all. Because I'm 65, my memory is not as good as it used to be. But I think there's somebody on here who's 74, if I'm not mistaken.
Hey, yeah, I was gonna say, where do you get to be my age?
Yeah. Hey, listen, given all I've been through, I am delighted to be 65. Let's see, where's the 6 things?
Yeah, we're glad you didn't pull the trigger.
Yes, well, and it's it's worse than that. Actually, I've got in addition to a sense of humor I inherited from my folks, I also inherited a bad heart valve from my father. Aww. Which I've had fixed twice, once in 95, once in 2012. Aww. I inherited the cholesterol level of the average deep fat fryer from my mother. Yeah. So even though I got 2 bypasses with the second valve job in 2004, that was 2012. In 2014, I had a heart attack. Both those bypasses occluded same day.
Your family is very, very giving.
Yeah, that's yeah. And
I mean, at that point, I would just take a card.
Yeah, they believe in sharing, obviously.
Yes. Well, some woman on a plane one time said to me, I was drinking a Diet Coke, and it's got the old style Diet Coke with aspartame. And she goes, that aspartame will kill you. And I said, honey, I have had 2 aortic valve replacements, a double bypass, a heart attack. I have 3 stents. I live with major depressive disorder and chronic suicidal ideation. And we're flying in a metal tube at 35,000 feet, defying the law of gravity. If aspartame is going to kill me, it's going to have to get in line. Yep. That's, yeah.
I love you, Frank.
Thank you.
I love you, Frank.
Well, and
I don't love you, but I like you a lot.
Okay. No, I love Frank.
We're just in the courting stage, Frank. Yeah.
Understand.
So, I think the rest of us, we're just courting. We haven't committed to the love yet.
That's right. By the bottom of the hour, you'll love me, as Orly does. Yeah, and the comedy, tragedy plus time equals comedy. Humor is one of the things that you should have in your TEDx talk. Humor is one of the things the selection committee is looking for. And that's obviously, having been a comedian for 35 years and written jokes for the Tonight Show for 20, I can certainly add even humor in the darkest moments, because especially if your topic is serious / dark. There's a psychological principle that if you have to tell somebody something serious, something perhaps dark, if after that you give them a little comic relief, then their brain is much better prepared for the next piece of dark, serious business. So that's one of the reasons that I've added humor to my suicide prevention talks. And again, it's funny personal stories. A guy called me the other day. He was late calling, and he said to me, and he knows my history, and he said to me, Frank, I was sorry to leave you hanging. I said, would you like to rephrase that? Because it's possible I could have been hanging at that moment. That's the sort of humor. The TEDx folks generally aren't looking for jokes. They're looking for something that's organic to the material, turn of a phrase, that kind of thing. And when I punch up somebody's keynote, that's what I'm looking for, not bolting on jokes, but going through the actual text and finding the humorous moments and sort of highlighting them. And I try to do it in their voice so that it sounds like something they would have said, they would have written. So again, it doesn't sound like it's bolted on. All right. Sixth thing.
You also have these facial expressions that go with it. It's like hysterical. I just have to watch you, and I know.
Yeah, well, that's Judy Carter, who wrote the Comedy Bible, would call that acting out. By way of my face and my body, I'm acting out the joke. It's a very powerful comedy technique. A joke is good, but if you can act it out, it drives it home. It makes it more real for the audience. It paints a better picture of the comedy.
Hey, Frank,
Okay.
I got a real quick question while you're bringing that stuff up.
Yeah.
Do you find it harder to do comedy in this day and age because of all the sensitivity? Because it seems like everybody's so sensitive, they don't laugh as much as they used to.
Yes, and if I had to do stand-up comedy for a living, which I don't, thank God, because I speak for a living, I would slit my wrist for real, because the comedy club should be a safe space for comedians. It should just be you and the First Amendment, and what you should be able to say whatever you want to say. And if somebody's upset with that, they should be able to get their money back. I mean, that's the way it used to work.
Right.
But yeah, people get offended, and
it Freddie Prinze who said, "I can't hear the laughter"? Was he the one that said that?
He died by suicide. I bet it was.
I think
I would wager that he probably he was a very brilliant comedian, and I would wager, well, obviously he killed himself, so he probably had some underlying mental health issues. And again, I believe that I'm not broken. I believe I was made this way, that my depression and thoughts of suicide are simply the flip side of my comedic ability, creativity, imagination. I mean, there's a reason when somebody heckles me that I don't even have to think. It just comes out of my mouth. People say, how'd you think that up? Honest to goodness, I didn't think it up. When you heard it, I heard it. Some woman was leaving. They were throwing her out of the comedy club. She got really drunk and was making herself a nuisance. The audience was thrilled. She was leaving. And she gets to the door as they're escorting her out, and she turns back to me and screams, F you. And without even thinking, I said, not even for practice. And standing ovation. Where'd it come from? I have no idea. But, the wiring is the same for the depression, the thought, suicide, that kind of lightning fast, heckler response. So it's, and I can teach you to write stand up and do stand up. I cannot teach you to process it. The incoming information the way my mentally ill brain does. It just works that way. It just turns it around and spits it back out funny. So, which is a big help for my clients and me in a TEDx, is that I can often find the funny where people go, there's nothing funny about this. Oh, give me a minute. Okay, mistake number one. I've talked to several people on what they call the curation team, selection committee, fancy name for selection committee. And they say almost to a person that the one thing that gets most TEDx applications thrown into the no pile immediately is too much. In other words, too many ideas. Most people have a passion or two or three, and most people have an idea or two or three. All the TEDx selection committee wants is one idea, just one idea. And then the second mistake is too much on that one idea. They're looking for an idea worth spreading, not a thesis. And that's why when I start to work with my clients, some of the first things we do are I say to them, look, I want you to create a title and subtitle, or we'll create a title and subtitle. And then we need a 10 to 15 word, no more, elevator pitch. And then give me a 1, a 2, and a 3-sentence summary of your idea we're spreading. So give it to me in 1 sentence, give it to me in 2 sentences, give it to me in 3 sentences, because that's about all you ever get. 3 sentences is about all you ever get. And sometimes it's just 1 sentence, but give me a 1, 2, and a 3. And give me a 60-second, a 90-second, a 2-minute, and a 3-minute overview on video. Record me a 60-second overview of your idea we're spreading, a 90, a 2, and a 3-minute. Again, those things are most frequently asked for on the application. They'll say, send us a 60 to 90-second video of your idea. Tip, if they say 90 seconds, don't send them 91. Because again, they're looking for the first reason not to give you an audition. If I have 200 applications to go through, which by the way, the average TEDx committee gets every year, I'm not looking for the first reason to give you an audition. I'm looking for the first reason not to, and throw you in the no pile and go on to the other applications I've got to slog my way through. So follow their directions to the letter. If they say 240 characters, don't give them 242. Make sure, and I usually cheat a little under just in case their word count machine is different from my word count. It's really easy with a video because when you pull it up on YouTube, it tells you exactly how many seconds or minutes it is. But yeah, if they ask for 90 seconds, don't give them 91. You can give them 85. That's fine. But never go over and again, pay close attention to the instructions, because they really want to make sure you can follow instructions. So let's see. Number 2 is too much about the idea. Again, that's why we do the 10 to 15 word elevator pitch, so forth and so on. All righty. Mistake number 3. Oh, the pitch lacks creativity. I have a friend who hired the biggest TEDx coaching company in the country. And I met her, unfortunately, 2 weeks after she'd hired them. She goes, I wish I'd met you 2 weeks ago. Me too. But she applied 80 times, 80, and called me crying. And I said, Amy, you've got a great idea. It's straight from your book that's a bestseller on Amazon in a very difficult category to become a bestseller. I mean, I think there must be something going on with the applications you're submitting. Would you send me, the information that you're putting on the applications? And I got it. And it had been put together by this big TEDx coaching company. And, all the I's are dotted, T's are crossed. Nothing wrong with it, but it just wasn't particularly creative. It didn't sing. It wasn't sticky. It didn't make me want to read on. I said, well, Amy, would you mind if I, work my magic on this information? She goes, no, what have I got to lose? I've been turned down 80 times. So I worked my magic on it, added some humor, some creativity. I turned the title around. And within 5 applications, she got TEDx Beacon Street, Boston, which told me that the big company probably doesn't have somebody on staff specifically tasked to be creative in the title and subtitle. Because again, if you've got 200 applications to go through, if the title and subtitle doesn't grab you, or the first sentence or 2 doesn't grab you, it's probably going in the no pile. So I recommend to my students that whatever we make the title, we all understand the English words in the title, but we don't really know what the person who filled out the application is getting at, which forces them to read the subtitle. And if they like the subtitle, which explains more what the idea we're spreading is, perhaps they'll read the 1, 2, or 3 sentence summary. And then perhaps they'll read the next thing that they almost always ask, why are you the person who should be delivering this talk? And then the next question most asked is, why should anybody care? What's the impact going to be on the world? So I think in those first answers, you need to be extremely creative. I've got a client, a woman who had a horribly aggressive form of breast cancer, double mastectomy. And the title of her talk in her pitch is How Cancer Saved My Life. Well, we all understand those English words, but we have no idea how that could happen. So forced to read the subtitle, which is, and how my fears almost killed me. So you need to, it's a marketing pitch. You need to hook them. There has to be a hook. We've got a client who wrote a book called Drunken Letters to My Sober Self. And that's the title and subtitle in the pitch. That's the title in the pitch. Drunken Letters to My Sober Self. We all know what those words mean, drunken letters to my sober self. But what is he getting at? Well, the subtitle explains he's talking about the emotional impact of quitting drinking. You know, the 12-step program is very mechanical. You go through the steps, but he said hardly anybody talks about the emotional aspect of getting sober and all that that implies, and the stigma and so forth. So again, we're trying to make the title a little nebulous, so they have to read the subtitle, because I believe the farther we can get them to read down the page, the better chance you're going to get at least an audition. And that's the first hurdle. And or if it's good enough, you're not going to have to audition, which is, again, Suicide: The Secret of My Success. That's counterintuitive. I'm sure that got their attention. Dead Man Talking is a play on the movie and book Dead Men Walking. It's a phrase they almost recognize, or they know that, you know, that from somewhere. What is that? Sounds familiar. So counterintuitive, familiar. And I hooked them. And then they looked at the idea, which was that I was married to my first wife, wonderful woman, but miserable. We didn't belong together. And I was selling insurance, great job, but not for me. I was miserable. And I was not going to the comedy store to do comedy, because my first wife, that was not what she had in mind for me to do for a living. So I was not going to the comedy store, which is where I thought I belonged. And I realized, having depression and thoughts of suicide, that if I didn't change something, and quickly, I was going to kill myself. And second thought was, well, I could divorce my wife, quit my job, try comedy. If it works, great. If it doesn't, I could still kill myself. And the way I pitched it was, what would you attempt if you knew you had absolutely nothing to lose? What audacious dream would you pursue if you knew by not pursuing it, you would literally die? Are you going to read on? Well, they did. And they said, you don't have to audition. They just like the concept so much. So mistake number 3 is not being creative enough in your application. I'm not saying you have to hire me to do this. I'm just saying, if you're going to fill out an application, for goodness sakes, be creative. Be as creative as absolutely possible to get their attention. Because if I've got 200 apps to go through, yeah, if I'm snoozing after the first couple lines, you're going to the no pile. All right, number 4, hiring the wrong TEDx coach. And I'm not saying you have to hire me, but I would say hire somebody who has a creative bent, somebody who has creative talent. You could hire the company, the big TEDx company. The guy's name is Taylor Conroy, who owns it and runs it. And Taylor's got 4 TEDx Talks. I've got 6, but hey, who's counting? And they do a good job. I's dotted, T's crossed. They charge a couple of grand more than I do. Fine. If they can get it, great. They make you pay it all up front. Okay. I don't, but I'm not saying don't hire them. What I am saying is make sure that if you do hire them, that you discuss with them the element of creativity. Who do you have on staff that's going to help me with a creative title, subtitle, elevator pitch, 1, 2, 3 sentence summary? Because and they get people TEDx Talks, and so they must be doing something right. It's a good company. It's not a scam. It's expensive, but they're not taking people's money like in some sort of they're not flim-flamming somebody. But it's easy to find the links, for me to find the links, for them to find the links to apply. TED, by the way, doesn't make it easy for the average person to find the links. If you look in the chat again, I showed you how to find the official TEDx, TED.com/TEDx/events. That's the official TEDx event site where you can find every TEDx in the world. And the benefit of that site is you can sort by geography and date. So let's say you wanted to do one in, I don't know, Ukraine. Yeah, probably right now you probably have a pretty good chance of getting picked, because who wants to go to Ukraine? But let's say you want to do one in Europe. You put in Europe, excuse me, the year and the month. Or you want to do one in Great Britain. You put in Great Britain, the year and the month. So the benefit of that site is you can sort and filter by. Now, the downside of that site is there are no links at the official TEDx page TEDx event page. Let's say it's TEDx Nashville. You go there, you're looking up and down, but there's no way to apply. Correct. Again, I think they do that to keep the number of applications down because they get so many. They throw that hurdle up. So I provide my clients with the links to apply. I have a service that I subscribe to. I get a list of I got today in the email. I got a list of every TEDx in the world for the next 12 months so that I can provide those to my clients. Now, there's another, I think I put in there, the search, you search TEDx applications 2022. If you do that, you can find the actual websites and Facebook pages of the TEDx events, like TEDxNashville.com, TEDxPhoenix. Whatever. Look for .com, .net, .edu, .org. And usually at the website, you'll find a link to apply, or it'll say we're not taking applications, or it'll say we're taking applications in a month. I would recommend if you go to a site like that, TEDx Nashville, whatever, and they have an email list, get on it. Because that way, next time the window for application opens, you'll probably get an email a couple of weeks ahead of time and you can apply. You'll be right on time to apply. So TEDx applications 2022. And of course, as we go deeper into the year, 2023, because you have that 4 to 5 month runway. Back to the official site where there is no link to apply. The one thing they do have, if you scroll down, you'll see the organizers, usually 1, 2, or 3 people who are the organizers. Used to, the organizers put links like email links and such to themselves, but I think they learned very quickly they were inundated by people wanting to apply for TEDx and sending them email directly. So there's generally no contact information for the organizers. However, you can take the organizer's name, go to LinkedIn. I recommend you have Sales Navigator, so you can in-mail them, find them on Sales Navigator, and drop them an in-mail. Hey, when does the application window open for the TEDx? Or let's say you send in an application for TEDx Nashville and you got an audition and you auditioned and you sent in your and you auditioned. Let me back up, take it back. You send in an application to TEDx Nashville. You don't have the audition yet. What I would do is I would go to that official page, find out who the organizers are for TEDx Nashville, and then go to your Sales Navigator, put in their names, and I would send them, and I have my clients do this, kind of a backdoor 60-second video. Hey, I'm Frank King. My idea worth spreading is mental health and the orgasm, treat your depression single-handedly. I would really love the possibility of standing in that big red spot of carpet at TEDx Nashville. Thanks. So it's a backdoor way to show a little extra effort to the organizers. And I learned that from a gentleman who was on the selection committee for a big Midwestern TEDx. He said, we always appreciate it if they just send us just not a lot, but just a 60-second hi, it's me, here's my idea, looking forward to the possibility of. And if you do it properly, if you just say, I'm looking forward to the possibility of being on your TEDx stage, then you don't have to make one for each of the TEDx events. They'll read into it when you say your TEDx stage. They'll read themselves into it. So you can use the same one as a backdoor video for all of them. So that's the other upside of the official pages. They tell you who the organizers are. And I would recommend Sales Navigator, because if you're just on LinkedIn and you're not connected to them, you have to send them a connection request with a note. Better to send them an in-mail with a note and a video attached. I'm a big fan of in-mail because I don't know what the open rate on email is nowadays. I know what my open rate is. I don't need the additional, but any in-mail I get, boom, it's like a text. I'm on it. Okay, so number 4 is hiring the wrong TEDx coach. There's a bunch of them out there.
Hey, Frank, Orly had a question real quick. You want to go ahead? I know we're kind of running out of time here for
Sure.
you. Bottom of the hour. Orly, did you have something you want to inject or question?
Well, yeah, Frank, first of all, love this. This is amazing. And I got the document. One is that I'm one of those victims who paid somebody $20,000 to be coached, and Frank knows the story. That's why now he's my coach. So yeah, I paid the big bucks to get hired, and I love the fact that you just said, okay, what I wish I knew wish I knew then what I know now kind of a thing. And I wouldn't want anybody to be in in those shoes. So Frank is my coach. But you mentioned about 80 applications and so on and so forth. I was told that I don't even have the right message. So I guess by having the right coach, there is the big idea, as you call it, I think it's called the big idea. If you have a big idea, I was told I don't even have the big idea. And then you told me, no, you have a great idea. So where does that, where's where does the rubber meet the road? Like, how do you know you have a big idea, or who's to say you have a big idea?
Well, and mistake number 5 is lack of passion for your topic. So that's where that's where the idea we're spreading comes from. That's the first conversations I have with my client. What are you passionate about? And so one of the things that Carmine Gallo says in Talk Like TED, one of the things that he believes has to be in every great TED Talk is passion. You have to have a passion for your subject. Passion. It's the kind of thing where it's an idea you cannot help but spread, an idea that makes your heart sing. And for me, that was suicide prevention. It's just, people go, how'd you pick that? Well, it picked me. But yeah, that's number one. And I help my clients find that passion. Some have more than one, but we sort them out. Which one has the best chance of being your first TEDx talk? That's the one we work on first. Yeah. And I've turned people down. One called me and said, I want to speak on customer service. I said, I can't help you. What? I go, are you that passionate about customer service? I said, look, if you said to me, Frank, I want to talk about empathy, the power of empathy in customer experience, that I can work with, but just customer service, I'm sorry. I can't believe you're that passionate. So I think most everybody has an idea, something they're passionate about, usually based on the messes and stresses in their life up to this point. Most TED Talks are, first third of it is your messes and stresses, your hero or heroine's journey. The middle part is, here's what I learned in that journey. And the last part is what you're going to teach them. And number 6 is you only apply once or twice. I believe you need to apply all over the place, all the time, until somebody says yes. Because each one is run independently. Each one has its own theme. Each one is looking for something different. And so why limit your chances? Apply all over the place. As I said, I got my first app. I'm now at app 75 or whatever on this other one, but I'm just going to keep applying until somebody gives in and says, okay, fine, we'll take you.
Hey, Frank, I know, again, we're getting low on time here. I want to make sure that anybody that's looking for a question with you, Michael, you have a question for Frank, or a thought? You got to unmute.
I also wanted to say that I looked up on the website, and there is a TED Talk on the 23rd of April in Plano, if you want to go take a look at it just quickly. Hey, Frank, I usually do a thing in the Plano Chamber where I pull people's cards and I'm funny to move them from introduction to introduction. Well, evidently that's gotten wind to my wife that maybe I'd be a good MC. So that's kind of scary, because I'm like, how do I come up with material to MC a dance performance with teenage girls? I don't know how to, be funny and entertaining and introduce dances. So can you give me some feedback on that?
Yeah. You know what I would do? I would get Judy Carter's Comedy Bible. It's almost a fill in the blank. She works you through experiences like that, and how she asks questions you ask yourself about things like that to help you come up with the premise is the girls dance. What's weird about that, hard about that, scary about that? There are 4 things she has. You ask yourself, and that's where the jokes, the punchlines come from. And anytime I do something like that, I always try to make the funny about them, not making fun of them, but the funny about them. So I would talk to some of the parents prior to the dance, talk to some of the young ladies, ask them what a good day looks like, what a bad day looks like. What's their favorite part about learning to dance or dancing or practicing or whatever. So do some interviews of the participants and then make the funny about them. And I wouldn't take that gig for money personally. But
yeah, great answer there. With 4 daughters, I'm not sure I would do that either.
No. One quick note, by the way, my program, my TEDx coaching program is, I call it Till Death Do Us Part. We work on getting you a TEDx until you get one or we both die trying. So it's not a year. It's not, there's no tail end on it. We just keep working. And we also do some speaker marketing mentoring along the way. Make sure you got a website and a one pager. Do you have a podcast, or are you guesting on podcasts? That kind of just nuts and bolts speaker. How do you move yourself up the food chain SEO wise to get picked to speak?
Hey, Frank, I know we're running on empty here. So is there anything else as we get ready to lose you that we should make sure we don't miss in this talk, or if there's anything we can do to serve you, because this is a organization of servant leaders. If there's anything we can do to help you in your mission, we'd like to do that as well.
Anybody who has a TEDx on their bucket list would be great. And again, I would recommend reading Talk Like TED, and I would also recommend reading Chris Anderson, who owns TED, wrote the book, The Official TED Talk Book. It will help you with crystallizing your idea worth spreading, give you an idea what they're looking for, what kind of idea, how it is to be presented. So those two are great resources, and they're on Audible, they're ebooks, they're printed books. So that's where I'd start.
I also have one question myself that I get asked quite frequently from folks that may not feel like a TEDx or any kind of talk is within reach. What is your 15-word or whatever reason that somebody would want to give a TED talk, if they're in terms of their business or whatever?
Well, it's a great way, visibility, credibility, marketability, certainly for speakers, but also authors. You can't pitch your book on the stage, but you can talk about all the wonderful things in it. And if you have a charitable cause that you're passionate about, you can't ask for donations from the stage, but you can talk about all the wonderful work you do and attract donations and volunteers. So it's just a way to raise your visibility. And, if you're on your homepage and there's a thumbnail with those big red letters behind you, whether you're a speaker, an author, a coach, whatever, and you've got a video from a TEDx as part of your demo, your sizzle reel. I'm not saying it's going to get you a booking or sell more books, but chances are it will help.
Okay. Randy, did you? Thank you.
We
are at 12:31, so I just didn't. I want to be respectful of your next meeting, Frank. But I'm going to suggest that you. We're going to do a podcast here where we get to hear a little more of your story. Is there anybody else that have a burning question before we Frank moves on? And we can continue in the mastermind to kind of kick this around or kick him around if we choose after he leaves. So if you got anything you want to say about Frank that you don't want him to hear, wait till after he leaves.
Please.
And then we'll have fun till 1:00. So any other
quick question? I don't have his information.
It's
I came in a little bit late. I came in a little bit. I came out a little bit.
Kelly,
late.
I'll repost it and just we'll get it out there.
Kelly, okay. I'm putting it in the chat again since you came late, so it should be in your chat box now.
Great, thank you so much.
Frank, all right, guys. Frank, and feel free to if you have questions you weren't able to ask, feel free to email me. My email's there as well.
Quick question.
Thank you so much.
Your opinion: how important is comedy in either a TED talk or in any talk, in your opinion?
I think it is essential. I think in any speech, any keynote, I believe you should move the audience from pole to pole, make them laugh, make them cry, make them laugh, and that's what I try to do.
Thank you.
All right, kids.
Well, thank you, Frank. Sorry for the confusion. By the way, just as parting, are you available to do the podcast next Thursday? If you can't answer that right this minute, get back with me in a response to my email.
Tell me what the date is.
That would be today's the 1st, so that would be the 7th.
I'm looking at my calendar. Yes, I am available.
Okay. Then you'll be the Warrior versus Zombie podcast guest for next Thursday. So I'm excited about that. And it's pretty fun. Orly's has done that. We had a blast. So I'm looking forward to that. So thank you again. Let's give Frank a hand. Thank you, Frank, for being flexible and in our, is a busy guy. And
that was awesome.
It was really, really, really good. And I'm sure everybody, by the way, this will be recorded. It'll be resident on the Be Connected platform. It'll be on my YouTube channel. It'll be shared to our private group. So anybody that ultimately sees this after the fact, I encourage you to reach out to Frank. I'm actually going to get into figuring out what he does, because I had an unsuccessful, I gave up too quickly probably, but had an unsuccessful a few attempts to be on the stage of a TEDx, and it's on my bucket list. So definitely going to do that. So anyway, thank you again.
You don't have a face for stage, Dave. That's the problem.
Yeah. I'm good for an audio podcast. Getting on stage might not, that may be it. They might have seen my.
You can't dance.
All right, kids, I'm gone. I'll see you on the podcast.
Thank you, Frank.
See ya.
Thanks.
See ya.
Thanks again.
Thanks, brother.
Bye.
All right. Anyway, so we're going, and we've had some folks join us since we started. So I'm going to give anybody that's on the stage an opportunity. You can go ahead and open your mic. I see Don Sprague kind of at the top of the list here. Don, you hadn't had a chance to introduce yourself, so go ahead and introduce yourself, Don.
Yeah, I'm Don Sprague. I do commercial real estate for small businesses, and that's what I do. And but I had an interesting sidelight to Frank. I was be interested to talk to him more about the downside to his suicide prevention. My wife died of that 5.5 years ago, and so I'm going to connect with him to see what he has done to prevent that.
Okay, well, that's great. I think that, by the way, his TED Talks around a lot of that, if you go to just search Frank King and TED Talks, his 6 TED Talks are out there. I got the opportunity. Sorry to say, I wasn't that aware of Frank until I was introduced to Frank, and so and they're brilliant and they're fun. And as Orly said, if you're not done with it, he's a comedian, and he greatly keeps you laughing. So anyway, but thanks for introducing yourself. Let's see, anybody else that I didn't? Patricia Ann, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself?
Good afternoon, Patricia with Gems of Time. I'm a jewelry appraiser and also a consultant. Thank you.
Thanks, Patricia. I'm glad you were.
And Shelley, David.
Yeah, I see. Shelley,
I didn't get to introduce myself. Like, that's the most amazing thing since the beginning.
Oh, you didn't get a chance? Okay, well, go ahead, Orly.
I know, I'm a piece of the furniture. No, go ahead, Shelley. It's okay. It's okay. I'm a piece of the furniture.
No, go ahead,
Oh,
Orly.
you're not.
You can go first. Go ahead, Orly. You can go first.
Go ahead, Orly.
Now you got to.
Now I have to. Yeah, I know, right? Because I said something. But hi, everybody. My name is Orly Amore. I'm a business coach for public speakers, and the only one in the world that guarantees they'll make $150K their first year in public speaking. That's it for me.
Well, there's so much more to you, Orly, than just that. But yes, that's what she monetizes, and she's amazing. I'm in love with Orly already. So anyway,
did your last name ever have an E?
Erotic way, just as a respect for her way. So
thank God.
This is being recorded. So
thanks for sharing that, David.
Nobody should get in the wrong way. That's not where we're going with this at all. Okay, let's see who else. Okay, let me see. Shelley, go ahead.
Well, I'm Shelley McDaniel, and I do video editing and graphic design. I want to make you the front and center of all your marketing plans.
Cool.
Thanks, Shelley. Good to see you again. Hadn't seen you in a bit, so I'm glad you're able to join us today.
Thank you.
Okay, did I catch everybody else? I know, let's see. Dustin, are you able to, did you introduce yourself? Yeah, you did.
I had started
Yeah,
to, but
but now you're not driving, so go ahead and.
yep. Dustin Holt, I'm with Logical Solutions Incorporated. We are an electronic security company based in Richardson, Texas. We do serve the entire DFW area. I'm new to the area, so my goal is just building relationships at this point. So thanks for having me.
Well, thanks for joining us. Hopefully this was worthwhile. There's so many, I've got so many things pinging around in my brain.
Yeah, they're
So,
very well.
yeah. Okay. Any other, as we go through it, who else has any questions, observations? We again, how do you apply this? What the question I'm going to put out there for anybody who has the courage to answer here, because I know this question is in some of your minds, is why do I care about getting on a TED stage? I kind of asked, and you got the a good patent answer, which is your message gets out there, gets to know. I'd say that I love, if you listen to Orly's podcast or her Mastermind, one of the things she said that to me still rings, and we've got the little short trailer, if you will, on our channel now, where she talks about, don't take your story to the grave. And I believe that when it comes, don't take your TEDx talk to the grave. If you've got an idea worth sharing, many of you do. I've had one-to-ones with many of the folks in this group, and you've educated me or shared things with me that I never thought of before. And they've made a difference in my life and probably could impact others. But anyway, Randy, go ahead.
Well, I was just saying that whether you ever make a TEDx talk or not, the principles that he talked about, the points, the structure, all the rest of that are good tips for one-on-one speaking to people, public speaking, all of those things. I think they're just good, solid foundations for communicating better.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's actually, I messed with his title. I don't know if you saw it, but so now I'm going to talk about Frank a little bit. I actually changed his title up, instead of the reasons you won't get kicked off, to the secrets to get on, just to see how he would react. And so I'm going to talk to him about after the fact, because I knew enough after, kind of listening to some of his TEDx talks and kind of doing a little bit of research, that he wasn't going to like the fact that I messed with his copy, and that was kind of his value prop. So I'm interested to hear his reaction to that later, and he'll probably tell me that's why you haven't got on a TEDx stage. But anyway, so I think that's pretty funny. Anyway, at least it was funny to me. I'm always finding myself funny when nobody else does. Go ahead, Orly. Did you have something?
Fatima was there first.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, Fatima. You want to go ahead and open your mic.
Yeah. Well, thank you. I think TEDx Talks. So I am a TEDx speaker. I've spoken to TEDx twice. My second TEDx talk was actually mid-February this year. So the video is not actually out yet, but you can probably find my first one. Why? And I can only speak from my experience, but I did want to share why I think being on a TEDx stage is valuable. For one, TEDx is very particular about bringing people who are experts in their field. So when you say that you're a TEDx speaker, just that alone instantly adds credibility to your name. So that's one of the big reasons. But also another reason that I think to be on stage, and it's about the idea worth spreading. It's that in my case, I had an idea that was biotope leadership. It was a new concept I came up with, but as a small business owner, I haven't trademarked my business. I haven't copyrighted anything officially. So if I were to put my very unique idea on my very small YouTube channel with less than 100 subscribers, my idea could probably get ripped off that easily by someone else the next day who might just come across my video and then make the content their own because they're a much bigger YouTuber. So the second thing was getting on the TEDx stage again and delivering my idea on that platform first before talking about it on my platform sort of establishes that this is my original idea. Anyone can type the word and it's going to come up as a TEDx talk. So it was another way of alternative trademarking.
Well, I like that. Actually,
Yeah.
that's kind of brilliant.
Good strategy.
I have a follow-up question for you if we have time,
Yeah, we got time, David.
Fatima, but I actually want to have Orly, because one of the things is with Orly, and maybe I don't know if this is where she's going to go or not, but understanding that her focus is she's the only coach on speaking that guarantees 150K in the first year, which, as I have gathered, she considers minimum wage for speakers. Tell me how you connect the dots with a TEDx talk versus, or in addition to, or as part of your the strategy you would work with your clients on.
Well, what I say to people, there's 5 types of stages, and one of the stages are credibility stage, and a credibility stage is a TEDx stage. That's one of the credibility stages. But a TEDx talk is so rehearsed and so precise, and with a very specific theme, and it's very specific. It's great to have one. But it's not what gets you booked as a speaker. It's a great thing to have under your belt, right? It's like having a book. It's a credibility, but it's not a must in order to get paid as a speaker. That's what the misconception is. It's like one of those myths. Oh, if I have a TEDx talk, then I'll get paid to speak. Not necessarily. You could start yesterday, and I can take any one of you and get you speaking for a fee without you ever have spoken before. But nobody would know that. All you have to have is confidence, knowing how much to charge, and that's it. So but to Frank's point, it's what's in it for the audience, like what's in it for me, right? But for the audience or for the event planner, and if there's no hook, they won't hire you. Right. So you got to have that, and that's one of my superpowers. So I get it, where he says that you have to have something that the selecting committee is going to want. That's why I hired him, because TEDx is one of my bucket list things, but I've been in the business for 25 years and I've never had a TEDx, but I would love to have it in my bucket list. It's like, I want 5, and when he said I have 6, I'm like, okay, then it's possible at least, it's like, before it was like, oh, impossible, 1, right, would be good. And now it's like, okay, if 6 is possible, then 5 is possible. But it's a credibility stage. And congratulations, Fatima. I mean, 2 is still good. You're ahead of the game. That's good.
So yeah, that's brilliant. Thank you. I kind of figured you would offer that, connecting those dots, because since we did have you here before. So as you say, it's a bigger picture that you really need to, and it's an overall strategy if you're going to get your message out. If you choose to be a paid speaker, if you want to get a credibility thing. I also like what you said about it's not okay, you got a book, you're on the TEDx stage, you got a TEDx talk, you're on it, got a book, these are all parts of getting getting on the right stages. So that's brilliant.
And can I just add one more thing? It's
sure,
like anyone from any business needs to speak. And there's only one reason I would say that. Every business that we have, we need clients. I mean, there's all these verticals, right? We have a product or a service, and we need to sell it, right? So we need to market it. One of the cheapest and fastest marketing tools is speaking. And it's kind of funny, but most people don't even have it in that realm of their marketing system, because they're afraid of speaking. And I get it, I totally get it, but it's one of those things that needs to be a part of their marketing. It's the
Well,
best.
yeah, and that's brilliant, and also something that people need to realize. We've talked about it ever since we started these Friday lunch and learns back in 2015 in the group, as this is an opportunity. We this is a networking group. We just went over 1,800 and whatever members, and I have regularly said, and some people hear it, some people don't, is that this is taking your networking to the next level by an order of magnitude, because now all of a sudden you have something worth sharing that will serve the entire community, whatever that is, and build your business. And so you should have something that you can speak to a diverse group of people about that will add value, and that changes your value as a node on your network. So I agree with that 1,000%, Orly. Any other thoughts? Go ahead. The mics are open. We're going to land the plane here in about 5 minutes or so. But I want to make sure everybody has a chance.
Oh, I want to say something.
Go ahead.
Early, as you were speaking, I already looked you up on LinkedIn, and I've added, and I really want to, or sent you a connection request and to add. I really want to connect with you and learn more about what you do with paid speaking engagements. I have been public speaking for a really long time, but as a paid speaker, I've only really started doing that. And I found that getting speaking engagements has always been really easy for me. But as soon as I decided I want to be a paid speaker, it's almost like a mental block, right? It's like, where do I go from here? It's like my creativity just went on a big pause, like hit the brakes. So let's chat about that. And I do want to learn more about you and what you do.
Thank you so much. I actually just put a resource in the chat for everyone. If you or anyone would like to attend this paid gig accelerator, it's a 3-hour workshop to show you exactly how to get those gigs. So it's $97. It's really nothing for 3 hours of you're going to learn everything you need to know about the industry and how to actually get the gigs. So we're going to actually get gigs that day. So you are going to actually look for them, and I'm going to show you how. So there you go.
Awesome. Thank you, Orly. And
please share it too.
Yeah, and we'll definitely, what we'll do, as we often do in these, if there's links that come up in the talk after the kind of the description of what the subject is, there'll be links for people to use. That'll be hot links on the YouTube channel and be available. And so feel free to use, we'll get those. So just thank you for sharing that, Orly. I'll make sure we get that on the links as well. Not to co-opt Frank's links or anything else, but I think more resources. This mastermind is all about adding value to our community and anybody who chooses to join it in a real way. And so to the extent that we're able to accomplish that, we're accomplishing the purpose. And each of you that participating in this mastermind, by definition, is expanding our thinking around any given topic and the application of the focus we had today. So I would strongly encourage you to continue to show up. Everybody here, even the new folks, just knowing you're here, everybody has a point of view that's of value and can expand our way of thinking. That's what networking is about too. It's not just what you know, it's how you look at what we both know together that sometimes makes a difference. So any other thoughts?
Yeah.
Any other?
Just a quick question, because this is a brain fart. Save the chat, the 3 little dots. It used to tell me where it was saving to or give me an option. Today, it just says save chat. And when I click on it, it doesn't go anywhere, or at least I can't see it.
Right. It'll save. I don't have a Windows machine, but with me, once I save it and the webinar is over, it'll be a text edit file wherever that is on your
right. Computer. Okay, I'll have to look for it.
So
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay.
Like
Randy,
freight
it's usually in a Zoom file
Okay.
under the library and Zoom
Thank
or
you.
whatnot.
I
Okay.
will give it a shot.
Any other challenges, observations? I do want to let you guys know we do, as you heard, Frank will be my Warrior versus Zombie podcast guest. I'll be sharing those links on all the various social platforms that we have and stuff. So you're always welcome to join that. That is not where you're coming up to the stage, but you can sit in the audience and see how the sausage is made, and that happens frequently, and that will also be recorded in all podcast platforms, so you get to hear a little more of Frank. You can already find Orly out there on that podcast as well, and she's amazing. And Ricky Jean and Randy, and there's other folks here that have already been guests on that platform, and so I'd encourage you to do that. Next week, we have Deborah Eckerling, who will be talking to us about wellness in the virtual workplace, and I think she's got a story worth sharing, and so that we all need to hear in this world that we're in right now is to stay well. I am standing here the whole time talking to you. We had how to do engaging virtual meetings, and I'm standing here talking to you because I'm at a stand desk, and I learned that through the pandemic, because I'm much healthier when I stand and there's different energy. So Ricky, did you have something?
Yes, previously I had been announcing that Ricky Jean Wright and Denise Owen and our bass player were going to be out at the Deep Ellum Music and Art Festival, but change of plans. We got a paying gig Saturday night, crawfish boil out in Forney, Texas. So we opted out of the free thing and did the paying thing. So we won't be out there at the Deep Ellum Blues and Deep Ellum Blues and Music and Art Festival because we opted out for a paying gig. So don't look for us out there.
All right. Thanks, Ricky, for tweaking us. And for those who are in the group, we have our in-person Monday mixer at Porta de Roma here in Richardson every Monday from 6:30 to 8:30. We have our networking meeting on Wednesday. And as I already said, Deborah Eckerling will be leading our mastermind next Friday. And we're actually have featured speakers throughout the rest of April and into May. So, and that's no April Fools. So, and nobody played any jokes today. So I was kind of waiting to see if somebody was going to say something that we'd all bite on. But anyway.
Well, I got one for you.
Yeah.
My birthday is tomorrow.
Yeah.
My dad, when I was a teenager, said, I always thought you missed being a fool by one day, but I'm beginning to wonder.
All right.
This week, I was talking to people and they were asking me more questions about me, and I'm usually interested about other people. And so after a while, I got really tired of talking about myself. So I said, hey, listen, enough about me. Let's talk about you. What do you think about me? And I was cracking up and they cracked up. So I'm like, oh, okay, that works.
Yeah, enough about me. Let's talk about you. What do you think about me? I
like that.
That's really beautiful. I love it. All right. Well, the mics are open. The meeting is officially adjourned. I wanted to give you 3 minutes back of your most valuable asset, which is your time. You're welcome.